The arguments that we've heard in favor of this amendment really are unpersuasive. First of all, there was reliance on Federalist 10. That's misplaced for a couple of reasons. Number one, Madison is not talking about the exclusive and heretofore plenary power to pardon or grant clemency of the president that is recognized in Article 2. And that's been recognized through case law throughout this country's history. B, Madison is speaking of judges, and including that example of being a judge, Madison discusses specifically a collection type of case, judge, creditor, debtors, in a collection dispute. An analogy of judges to the president's exclusive and plenary power is not pertinent here. That's because a judge, even a judge, has limited powers, unlike the president's authority where pardons and clemency are concerned. There's no court, there's no attorney general opinion, other than the one that you've cited, which is inapposite to this case, are concerned. Number two, this amendment actually raises separation of powers issues because, quite frankly, all the way back to the founding of this country, the power to pardon in the president has been viewed as plenary or without limitation. An attempt now to put a limitation on that power crosses the line that separates the legislative and executive branch. Thirdly, much of the argument that we've heard here, including from the our last friend across the aisle that spoke, in spite of the fact that this rhetoric against, there's been rhetoric against President Trump, but it's this notion that it would be unseemly for a president to pardon him or herself, that it would be gross and boorish, perhaps. But you can make no mistake that while such an act might be so, the Constitution does not proscribe or prohibit obnoxious conduct. And there is no authority here. Otherwise, we would prohibit and proscribe, for instance, if you wanted to prescribe this conduct, you would say, well, we find certain kinds of speech objectionable because it is offensive. That's not allowed. That does not, the Constitution actually protects some kinds of obnoxious behavior. So if your argument is this would be obnoxious or gross or boorish, where is your constitutional authority to set that aside?
Would the gentleman yield?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, I'll yield for a minute. Go ahead.
So, first of all, thanks for those questions about it, because
I didn't have any questions, but you may address.
the whole thing struck me as a big question. But I want to address the point that Madison in Federalist 10 was talking about judges. He definitely was not talking about judges. Your argument is improved if you say he was talking about legislators, because all in the context of saying the legislature should not be judge in its own case. But that just proves the point that he's talking about everybody within the federal system, that no man is allowed to be a judge in his own case because it will corrupt.
I'm going to reclaim my time here. Good. And here's why. Because when you start, yes, he's talking, Article 10 is about factions and parties, and that's where that goes. When you begin talking about judges, and that's what you brought that up, not me.
Well, I can read you the passage. It's about legislators.
I have the time here.
Would the gentleman yield for question?
No, I'm responding, okay? So when you start talking about judges, and you use that as your example, as an analogy to no president can set aside or pardon, you didn't go on and go to the next paragraph below that where Madison is specifically talking about judicial conduct and how absurd that would be. The distinction, which apparently you didn't catch, and so I'm going to reiterate it for you. The pardon power is plenary under Article 2. That means it's virtually without limit. There are no constraints on it. A judge and the legislator does not have such plenary power. That is the distinction that you failed to make. And that is the distinction.
Would you yield for one other question?
That is the distinction I am making here.
Would the gentleman yield?
I'll yield to Mr. Raskin.
Okay, so the Constitution also does not explicitly say that the president may not render a pardon in return for money. It doesn't say he can't sell a pardon. Do you believe that the president therefore can sell a pardon?
I'm reclaiming my time. No, I don't think you can sell a pardon. I don't think you can sell that. Your amendment doesn't get to that.
Well, but another one did.
Nor does your argument get to that.